in general. So you don't have to be a leader to respond to the questions, just whatever your experience is. So that's the first one, and if you have already responded, I have some people in the background helping me. So when you answer your question, there will be somebody, when you ask your question, there will be somebody there to get it and to share with me. So I'm going to see if we have any responses before I go and into the second question. But you see the second question in front of you. So if you didn't answer the first one, you can start thinking about answering the second one. So let me get my glasses on. I don't know what makes me think I can do anything without them. I just had them. Oh, of course, they may as well have been on my nose. All right. So, any questions? I got, again, like I said, responses. Okay. Okay. All right. So I did my own research, so I'll share that with you later. So, the next question is, and if you are listening to me, even here in the room, you can answer the question. So, all right, so now this is a scaling question, and it requires you to think about a continuum on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 meaning not at all and 10 meaning extremely well. How well would you guess, and it's a guess because I'm not assuming you know, that members of your organization encourage others to join your organization or your church? How well do you guess that members' behavior, encourage others to join your organization? 1 to 10. Okay, I got 3. All right. Let's see. I'll get about like a 5.5. Any other numbers, you guys? I see 5. So far, we're failing, y'all. Hello, Ruth. Thanks for joining us. Great. So far, we add a couple of 5s and a 3 and we're talking like maybe 4 point something. So far, those that have responded, the thing is that people's behavior does not encourage people to join your organization or your church. That's what the answer. Okay, let's go to the number 3. Same thing, scale of 1 to 10, not very much or extremely important. How important is relationship building to the life and growth of your church or organization? Scale of 1 to 10. How important is relationship building to the life and growth of your organization? Okay, I get a 10 already. 10. 5. Okay. All right. So far, we just used those 3. That's like, that's 25 divided by 3. Somebody do the math. Okay. That's 8 something. Yeah, because 3 times 8 is 24. Got you. Well, look at me. So, yes, about 8. Sorry, going in, let's see. We just asked the question. I'm going to put you right to work.
Oh, my God.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is relationship building to the life and growth of a church or organization? 1 meaning not very important, 10 meaning very important. What's yours?
10.
Okay, there's a 10, so we just went up a couple of points. So the consensus so far is that it's pretty important, like almost a B plus important.
Yes.
Next question. So, popular opinion. Ever since I started to do this, I started asking people the question about what their opinions are of the church, just in general. And almost everybody said something that equates to hypocrisy and judgmental. And I'm almost quoting several people said, what we say does not equal to what we do. So our walk and the talk does not match. And and I want to ask the people in the room, does that sound about right, or is that off the? Okay.
I think it's on target.
It's on target.
Absolutely,
Absolutely. So far, with my little poll and with people that are standing in the room, and on anything in the chat, anything what people say, what do you say? What is your opinion of that? What you say? if someone just asks you, what did they think of the church today, what kinds of things do they say? And anybody, on here can just respond to that. Okay, all right, I'm not gonna push on.
I think they're extremely judgmental.
Okay, so, all right, extremely. So that's a 10 plus.
Yeah.
Great. So we're we're heading somewhere with this. So let's go to the next page. So in my field, I told you I was a therapist. We ask what is called a miracle question, and we say to our clients, if a miracle happened, you woke up the next day, and the problem that you have is no longer a problem, what would be the first thing you notice? So say if we were all leaders of a church and we realized that what everybody just said is the truth, our miracle would be what? And how would we know that we got what we really wanted the next day after we woke up? What would we see? So basically, if this were not a problem, what would be just the opposite of this in our lives? What would we see here? Yes.
I think that we would be able to speak more freely. We wouldn't have to walk on eggs when we talk to each other, eggshells.
I got you. So more freedom in how we respond to each other. We won't have to worry about what people are thinking about what we're doing or saying, because there will be no judgment.
And hence, I think, building on her point, more creativity.
Go talk more about that. More
Um,
creativity, she says.
I think people would feel, as you said, less
Ah.
inhibited. So then ideas and feelings and attitudes could spring forth.
Wow, I hear
Yes.
that. Because if you feel free, then
Yeah.
you can think outside the box without anybody having a problem with that. You can move forward without thinking they're gonna have a problem with it.
Right.
And your ideas are fine.
Mhm.
You feel good.
Right.
You feel safe. And y'all share with me what you're getting online if you're getting something. Yes.
And what I want to add to that is that as a Christian, when we grow in our creativity, then that makes us more like the Creator,
Amen.
and that's our purpose.
Yes.
Our purpose is to create.
Yeah.
And if we feel like we can't do it, then we're not even being our best.
Absolutely.
All right. Wow. So
Wow.
the difference is we'll be
That's
free
good.
to speak our minds and be ourselves. All right. Anything else, guys? I'm not. Just let me know.
Yes. Marcel has said something pretty profound. She says, difficult question. What we perceive the problem to be may not be the real problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I need Marcel to explain that some more. What we perceive the problem might be in who's the we? Who's the we? Are we talking about, yeah, who's the we? I'll come back to it. Who's the we? Just express who's the subject and who's the object in that comment. Okay. We'll come back to it. Let's keep moving. So we agreed that there's room for improvement. That if nothing else, even if we didn't agree on what the problem is, we know there's some things that could be better.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I would say how much, and consider this. 64% of the people in the U.S. are Christian, right today, in 2020. The Pew Research Center offered this in a 2020 article. And this was really interesting. Between the ages of 19 and 29, people who were raised as Christians totally book. They do something altogether, or they don't do anything. They don't believe nothing in particular, or they find something else. Between 19 and 29, that's a pretty critical time in the life of people in general. But can you imagine a church that's not growing that has that number? And so right now we're the majority, but in 2070 it is believed for a lot of different reasons, and one of them is immigration, and the other thing, which is called switching, is what I just suggested. Those are a couple of things that will contribute to the fact that Christianity will not be the majority religion in 2070 if we keep going the way we're going. Yes.
Well, what do you think it will be?
Probably some of everything. It probably would just be more diverse. Lots of different kinds of things, and a lot of, like, some of those people they just agnostic, atheist, that 1929, that's kind of what they, either there's something totally different or there's nothing at all. So it'd be just a very wide range, but we couldn't call this a Christian nation in terms of numbers, like we have been able to do in the past. You notice that qualification I put in there. All right, the next one is,
I have a question.
yes, go ahead.
This is my question is, you said when you said they may not be considered Christian in 2070, could that be because everybody does not necessarily they'll say that certain things like I'm very spiritual.
Yeah.
I don't belong to any denomination.
Right. That's one factor, because they don't necessarily call themselves Christians, but they still might believe some of the things that they grew up believing. But there probably a lot of things like they don't go to church and they don't identify as Christian. Yes.
When they say something online, can you repeat it for us?
Okay.
Thank
So Ruth was just saying that basically what are people saying they are if they're not saying that they are Christian? And I just offered that one of the reasons that this would necessarily be a Christian nation is because, and she said, could they be saying that they're spiritual and not, because people say a lot of times I'm spiritual, not religious. So they may not be identifying, but that's basically what she asked. Did I get that right, Ruth? Okay, she nodded yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I put myself on mute if I'm not talking.
No, understood, yes.
If we could stay on that for just a moment, I'm thinking about how that would look, what the profile of all of that particular culture would look like in the future.
Mhm.
And then if we are dependent, per se,
Mhm.
on the more matured or elder people in the church to be the leaders and to be shepherding the growth of this younger group,
Mhm.
how dismayed may they be if, you've got a bunch that are looking at you and they don't believe a thing coming out of your mouth?
Yeah. And answer that question. Why would you look at me and not believe the thing that's coming out of my mouth? Why would this group do that? Why are they switching to start with? You gotta ask that
Yeah.
question.
Mhm.
I think we kind of answered it when we started out with the first questions we were asking, and we were talking about the way people perceive Christians.
Because they see hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
hypocrisy.
See,
Yeah.
you weren't even here when we said hypocrisy. That was one of the words that was used to describe it. Okay, so switching means they have either another faith or no faith at all. And so even but the Pew Research Center reports that in 2070 it still is going to be less than about 35% Christians in this nation, because it's not just switching. Even without switching, they said that's going to happen. So you got to ask, and this is in 2070. How many years is that from now? This is 2023. Well, we got a little time. If we want to affect some kind of change in this, we got a little time. But we got to get on it.
That's a concern.
That's a concern.
Yeah.
Okay, next. So the projection for change is the only way this will change that they're suggesting is that there's a catastrophic event, war, climate change, or climate crisis, depression, or a religious innovation. If any one of those things happen, possibly, if any one of those things happen, then this might change the trajectory of our nation in terms of this belief system. And they call it that would lead to a revival of Christianity in the U.S. And we've had some great revivals in the history of our country. So I guess that's what they're suggesting would happen if any one of those things were to happen. Of course, I'm offering an innovation versus those other three things, possibilities. I wouldn't really want to experience any of them, especially if there's remotely something I can do. And I believe there is something we all can do. So my innovation is that I mentioned to you a couple times, I'm a therapist. So what I've done is created a curriculum where I use therapeutic skills to teach believers the therapeutic principles to teach believers the skill of radical acceptance. And radical acceptance for me is love, and I'll give you my definition. It'll help us build relationships, it'll help us enhance our own personal witnesses, and therefore inspire growth of the church. Not just any particular church, but the church, I guess we'd say the universal, the church in general. So I believe my innovation will do that. Radical acceptance. I had written my book, and I'll mention it again. It's called How to Love, following the example of Jesus of Nazareth, the ultimate postmodern psychotherapist. While I was writing the book, I came up with this definition, because the book is called How to Love. And so I was trying to think of, okay, so what am I saying love is? And so I came up with this definition. Love is to hold someone or something in such high regard that you make the necessary sacrifice to maintain your connection with that someone or something. Now, it's interesting, when I was coming up with my definition, two things comes to my mind. Positive high regard is something Carl Rogers, he's an old school psychologist. He said that's what therapists need to have he said it was unconditional positive regard is what therapists should have for their clients. And then sacrifice, of course, brings Jesus and his behavior to light. And so between the two of those things informing my decision, because I wasn't thinking about Carl when I said it. I wasn't necessarily thinking about Jesus, even though I think I was, the sacrificial part. But that is so almost prophetic, because the curriculum that I created bridges what I learned as a therapist with what I learned as a Christian. So that's my definition. So what's my skin in the game? That becomes my story. Okay. Tell me, and I'm going to ask you ahead of time before I do what I'm about to do, what does this remind you of? Okay, I'm walking from in front of the camera. I'm walking over here, and I say to you, my name is Deborah, and I am a Christian.
It reminds me of, my name is Pat, and I'm an alcoholic.
Right. Pat said, it reminds me of, my name is Pat, and I'm an alcoholic. That's exactly what I meant to do.
Okay.
Wow.
And the reason why I did, and let me tell you, so I just told you I'm a therapist, and I was training, I used to be a professor for training therapists. And diversity and inclusion was I changed the name of the class to inclusion and diversity, because what we did and what I did was spend more time talking about the inclusion part of diversity, because the diversity we got. So, but I won't get off on that. Inclusion was our problem. And so in the class, we would talk about every ism we could think of. Ableism, ageism, sizeism, capitalism, what else? Racism, colorism, tribalism. I mean, every kind of ism we could think of. And of course, we talked about religion, traditionalism. And I would, as the class grew, I would bring different resources to the class. I brought a class called the Power of an Illusion, Race and Power of an Illusion. And I had a video called The Longest Hatred. And that particular video was about how Christians deliberately demonized Jews to help create all the myths, I would say, about that group. And of course, I'm listening to that, I'm watching it like they're watching it, and I'm appalled like they are appalled. And when the video was over, I said to my class, I cannot identify with a group of people who would do that to someone. And from that point on, I stopped calling myself a Christian. That's why I did that. I stopped calling myself a Christian. And I didn't stop believing, but I stopped identifying myself that way, because like I said, I can't identify with somebody who would just do that. Now, I know there are other horrific things Christians have done, and I didn't want to get off on that tangent, but I know there are other horrific things that they've done. But that day, that time, that just like, and my book, is I said Jesus is a postmodern, psychotherapist. I talk a lot about believers. The curriculum is called the Believers Transformative Relationship Training. It's not the Christian transformative. I was still thinking, I call myself a believer, but I won't call myself a Christian. So I'm going through this. I left the university from teaching in 2015. And I have to say this: what I taught students in the class is we had to learn how to accept people. we don't have to agree with them, and that seems to resonate with them. I don't have to agree to accept them. So acceptance was a big part of what I taught and what we learned. And so I left the university because I knew there was something that I was supposed to do that I wasn't doing, and I knew if I stayed there I was going to keep doing that instead of doing my thing. So I left in 2015. 2019, I looked at a lot of informative YouTube videos, and I was listening to this atheist philosopher say, he talked about the value of religion and therapy. And when he said that, it took me all the way back to 2006 when I started writing my book about Jesus being a psychotherapist. So now I'm there, and I'm sitting down, right? I know my call. I know where I'm supposed to go. So I've turned into Jerry Maguire when he was doing his mission statement. I was just typing, and I know I wrote that book in probably no time. And I wrote the curriculum in no time flat too, because it was all there. I just had not figured out how to get it out of me. So I did that. So now that was 2019, this is 2023. This is me just now doing what I'm doing now with this audience. And one day I was, trying to get my thing together. Already wrote the book, selling the book here and there. But I realized something that I was not allowing myself to realize before. And that is, Deborah, like Pat, you said this earlier. What did you share with me about somebody who's in ministry said they didn't?
Someone I know who's
Someone
in
you
ministry
know?
said that they did not get along well with people. They didn't
Somebody
really
should-
like people.
Somebody that was in ministry said they don't like people, they don't get along well with people. Okay, now I just had to admit that I'm a Christian because I had a problem with them. I didn't realize till a month or two ago that, Deborah, that's probably why you haven't done what you're supposed to do, because you got a problem with these people. And how you gonna serve somebody that you don't like and you can't identify with? And I said that to myself as I was walking to my steps. I said, when you do your thing, you're going to have to tell people this. You're going to have to admit this. And that is where I was. And it wasn't until I allowed myself to recognize that is why you're not moving forward, because you claim you don't want to fight with the church about what you're offering. You claim that they're going to push back just like they did Jesus.
Wow.
You claim all that, but what it really is you got a problem with
Wow.
those people. Those people.
Amazing.
And I'm doing the same thing that I was trying to teach my students to do, which is why this is my experiential project right now. I'm having to stand in front of the class and say, that was me, that I was doing the same thing. But the beauty of all of that is you don't have to stay there. Now I'm going to give you three reasons, 3 ways to grow your ministry, but the one thing that I did not mention is what I just did now. Self-reflection is a big part of growth, personal growth. And that's what happened to me when I was walking up my stairs that day, and I realized that's what's wrong with you. That's why you haven't moved forward, because you have not recognized that you are doing the same thing to that group that you were telling your Christian students that they were doing to gay people or to black people or to men or whoever they had a problem with. You had a problem with this group, so you cannot move forward until you do something about it. And most of my students, most of them left class in a different place. And I learned a lot. I grew a lot. And if it were not for this basic family therapy belief system about self-reflection, I probably was still trying to figure out why haven't I moved ahead on my journey to get where I am right now talking to you. Self-reflection, you have to, and I always mention B.B. King when I think about this, because in one of his songs that we heard over and over growing up was called Why I Sing the Blues. And he says in the song, I look in the mirror and let it tell me the truth. And that's what self-reflection is. You look there, you see what you see, and you call it what it is. And that will help us move forward. And that would be a part of a larger training that I would do. Then I had a student one of the most impressive students that I had, they had to do journals. And so I was going to use her journal entry right here to share with you guys what she said in her journal about my teaching and how I did it. And I called her and asked her what she said, instead of me reading it or letting y'all read it. Can you turn it on? I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. It'll be on the recording. I don't hear it. Okay. Basically what she said is that I was using my skills as a therapist to teach the class. And she said that she realized that's what I was doing. She said how brilliant that was. I have to say that. That I would do that because that means students are learning because they see the professor doing the thing that the professor is teaching. And she said at the end, I said to myself, I want to learn how to do that. Now that's a great example of what's supposed to happen when people witness our lives as believers. I'm still saying believers. When people witness our lives, there's supposed to be something about it that invites them to say, okay, I think I'll see what's up with that. Because these are some really sweet people. And that's what they said about the early church, that they loved each other. And they had everything in common. All of that was the first century Christians. That's how they behaved, and they got the reputation. We are one in the spirit, and they'll know we're Christians by our love. A mantra, you know. So that's the way we're headed with this. I said to inspire change requires more than teaching what is right. The teacher's spirit must reflect that which is righteous. And I said, because people know the difference. So what I'm going to offer you when I offer you 3, keys to doing better or growing ministry is they all have to do with your relationship with your own self and your own understanding of God and your personal relationship there, because it's still, you can learn the ways. Till the cows come home, I can talk about the ways, but you have to be open to it. For significant change to happen, you have to reevaluate your principles. I had to reevaluate what was going on with me where Christians were concerned. I had to be able to do that. I had to change the way I was looking at it. I had to think about them. And I feel when we want our colleagues to treat us in a way that's respectful, we always say, treat me like a client. Because when we say that, we're asking you to stop talking and listen. Respect me, honor where I am. There's a whole list of things that they expect you to do if you know how to be, I'm going to call it a postmodern therapist. And you have to have a sound personal conviction about it. That's what I meant by your own relationship. I had to realize that you are wrong and you're going to need to call it that. And then you're going to have to change how you think about that, because you know how to do it. You taught people how to do it for 15 years. You know how to do it. So why are you hanging on to it? And that's going to be some questions I'm going to pose to everybody. And then the last thing I said is practice, practice, practice. Because you do it over and over again. Like I quoted my definition of love. I've been practicing that ever since 2019. So I know it. I didn't have to read it. Most days it comes out like I wanted to. So down to the how-tos. And I call it the how-tos because I'm always saying that we know what to do. Love your neighbor as yourself, the Good Samaritan, we know what to do, but how to do it is what is escaping us. And that's where the whole therapeutic piece comes in, is the things that they've taught me how to do as a Christian. That's why it came to me to write about Jesus as a therapist, because I knew everything they was teaching was everything he did. And if you have my book, and you can get a copy if you like, I take you through all of the therapeutic skills and behaviors and postures, and I got a story Jesus doing exactly the same thing. And that's what I do through the whole book. So the first one is expect that people have personal strengths. We call it personal resources. Expect that people have so I know we got the sin, we all created in sin and iniquity, I think it's like Isaiah. Yeah. But how are you going to, like, back to me and my problem with Christians, how are we going to be available? How are we going to be open and not be judgmental unless we see something other than what we see is wrong with someone? So to be able to know that person is made in the image of God, to be able to know that there's more to it to them. You look for something in them that would invite you to lean into them and listen to them, and not think about the weed you smell on their breath, or the alcohol that you smell on their breath, or the color of their eyes, or whatever it is that looks like something is wrong. Maybe their hair is too nappy, I don't know. but beyond your personal idea about who they are, what else is going on, and you look for it, you expect it. That is how we're able to sit with anybody, and that's what people say, well, you're a family therapist, do you work with blah, blah, blah. I'm a relationship therapist. So I can sit with anybody in a relationship and talk about whatever is going on, because there are relationships there. If it's drugs, that's a relationship. If it's whether somebody in the neighborhood did to them, that's a relationship. Not just to the person, but to the thing they did. So relationships are all over the place. And so you cannot ignore that when you're talking to someone and you want them to believe that you really mean what you're saying to them. And they know that because you're a Christian, that they can trust you. Well, you gotta act, you gotta look at them, you gotta treat them like you expected something good to come from that. I love to use the example of Peter. We know Peter was a gangster, and how but Christ changed his name. He said you call this, but I'm gonna call you that, because he saw something else in it. And that's what I'm trying to evoke. Looking for what's behind the cool, the hard, the not smiling. What's behind that? Because there's something else, and you got to be expecting it if you want to connect with them. Yes, somebody. I should slow down right now. And you guys, if you want to ask me a question or say something regarding that, do so. Somebody in the room does. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you are trying to be to walk the walk and talk the talk of that believer, and you're dealing with a person or persons who see that, but yet in their mind and in their soul, they're bringing out things about you and their feelings toward you that you're just finding it hard to. Well, how do I do this?
Well, let me just tell. She said you're trying to be in a relationship with someone, but whatever is going on with you, they can tell. And so, how in the world are you going to? How can you get past how they're treating you to look for something good? My answer to that is you have to know it's there. You have to know that it's there. You have to know that's a facade. You have to know that's a shield. You have to know that's protection. You have to know that they are, make it up if you have to. But you figure out a way to say, her or his life had to be really difficult because I know I mean what I'm saying, but they can't see it.
Yes.
Yes, and if they can't see it, that is really your problem. Your problem, your task is to look beyond the way they're acting and looking, and treat them like something better is in there. I have a great example. I had a Jewish woman came to my class, my diversity class, sat on the front row and frowned almost a whole semester. They mustn't tell how good I was, because everybody came to my class came because of who I was, and I'm just being real. But she was like, I guess she's because you got to prove it to me, because I don't believe it. I bet you one thing, before she got out of that class, she wasn't frowning at me on the front row. Because I knew she had good reason to be frowning. Somebody had taught her you can't trust women with blonde hair. You can't trust somebody who talk this talk because they don't walk. She learned that from someplace, and I had to recognize that wasn't something I was doing. It was based on something she believed. Just like it's the other way around. But I can't leave believers. We can't leave it up to them to do the thing that we're supposed to know how to do. We have to show them by doing it, by persisting. And that is just being available and not cussing them because they cuss you, and not walking off because you have to find it in yourself. And that's, remember that, what would Jesus do? Same thing. You have to find it in yourself to do the thing that you would want somebody to do if you were strung out and nobody else wanted to talk to you or gave you an opportunity. Any questions here? Any comments there, guys? We good? Okay. Number 2. My question is, what prevents you from expecting the best? What prevents you from expecting the best?
Past actions.
Past action. Yeah, because it's kind of hard. It's not easy. It's not easy. It hurts, quite honestly. It wasn't easy for me to watch her look at me like that, but I just had to do my job and keep teaching. And again, give her an excuse for looking at me that way. And once I gave her one, it wasn't a problem. Anybody? Okay, number 2. Learn the skill of radical acceptance. I always say that. Radical acceptance. I guess exception. Anyway, unconditional love and grace. That's all it is. Learning how to do it. It kind of goes with what you just said. That question you asked. How do you keep doing this how do you persist when they're treating you a particular way? And it is grace. It is totally, you just be there. I love the example of the rich young ruler. Remember, he came and he said, what must I do? And he said, okay, well, sell all that stuff and follow me, And he went away, and Jesus let him go away. He didn't say, you are losing, you are missing a lifetime. Do you know how famous Peter and the rest of these 12 people gonna be? Do you know what's coming? He just said, okay. He just let him go. That was acceptance.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, when do you get to the point of saying, okay,
that's love.
if I can't do anything with you and you're thinking, I'm gonna have to let you do you.
Yeah,
And I
she
have to
just said
keep
she's
on
gonna let
trying
him
to
do
do me.
Yeah, she said she's gonna have to let him go when they go, and that's what he did. He let him go, and that's what we have to do. Just because all you're gonna do is upset them. That's the other thing. If you keep badgering somebody about what you think they ought to do, you're just gonna upset them. But what you do is you allow them. That's acceptance too. Allow them to go. If he keeps drugging, if he keeps drinking, whatever it is that he's doing, if he keeps working all day and all night, he has family at home, whatever it is going to catch up with him, but there's nothing you can do but say, boy, you might want to go home instead of, doing this. I know you're trying to make a living, but, you got a family. And so, but you got to let them go when they do, and that's what Jesus let him do. He let him walk away, and I said the Bible says he walked away because he had many riches. I think he walked away sad. I think he walked away because I think he knew what he was giving up, but he did not want to part with his stuff. So it's both. I want to hang on to my stuff, but I'm also, because he came up and asked. They didn't ask him, he asked them. So it was something he wanted. But he left because I think both. If I do this, then I got to change some things, and I don't really want to change some stuff. I kind of like the way it is, and he let it. Were you trying to say something? Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking, so you saw that. Is it just the radical acceptance of the person, or is it the radical acceptance of you?
Go ahead. She's asking, is there radical acceptance of them, or you accepting yourself?
Or both, yeah.
Or both.
Yeah.
It's probably both. It is both, and that's another one of our beliefs. It's not just either or, it's both, and always, because it's always a relationship happening.
Because I would think it was really, maybe not hard for Jesus, but for the common Joe, it's really hard to let them go when you know that they're going to something really bad. I think about what happened with Ricky Smiley and what he's going through. He had to accept the fact that he could not help his son.
Yeah, he talked
And that
about
had to
Ricky
hurt.
Smiley had to accept that he couldn't help his son. Yeah, it did have to hurt. But go back to number one, the belief that the person has the ability to do what it is they need to do. And that's key, because you can't, again, we can't fix people. I can see all day long that you got brilliance. And I can say, you are brilliant, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you did this. I can do that all day long. But until you embrace it and decide, okay, she's right, and do something else, then nothing's going to change. But your job as the believer and the saved person in this situation is to allow them to do what they do, believing that they have the capability to do it when they get ready. And
I want to say something, Mrs. Ruth, with that.
okay, Ruth.
The radical acceptance part. And in order to maintain your sanity, you have to do that.
Yeah.
For yourself. For the simple reason is that we are trying to, we put too much emphasis on managing grown people.
Okay, did y'all hear that?
Not clearly.
1 second, let me repeat something you said before you move on. You let go and you accept them for your own sanity, she said, and we work too hard to try to change grown people. Put too much emphasis on it. And go ahead.
And the fact of the matter is, we try to manage that person that we think they ought to be, not the person they really are.
I see. The person we think they ought to be, not the person they really are.
Yeah.
Or the person they want to be.
Or and the other person in the room said, or the person that they want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the therapeutic aspect of this is when you let go, when you stop badgering them, if it's any truth to what you said, they already know it. And it is nothing like somebody trying to tell you what to do, and you want to do it yourself. Or I have a grandson who, you can ask him for a kiss and he'll walk away, and then he'll come back and kiss you. So he does that about a lot of things. He wants to do it because he wants to do it, not because you told him to do it. I know you want to kiss, but let me kiss you when I get ready.
Wow.
So people, you have to give them space to come in their own time, and that is accepting too. Yes.
But meanwhile, you hurt.
But meanwhile, you hurt, says somebody in the room,
Yeah.
and you're hurting because you. And I'm assuming this. I don't know this, but what comes to my mind is you're hurting because you're thinking it's something you can do. And
Absolutely.
but you gotta understand that they got skills too. That goes back to number one. They have what you have to believe is in there. You have to believe it's in there, or else, like Ruth said, or else you will lose your mind trying to help
Yes.
somebody who's not. They're not hearing you.
Amen to that.
Wow, this radical acceptance thing got y'all going.
Yep.
All right, number two question is, what prevents you from allowing others to be themselves? What prevents you from allowing others to be themselves? What
Not
prevents you?
accepting the fact that they're not you.
She said not accepting the fact that they're not you. Okay,
That's it.
but that would do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, something you're doing. So I guess you have to, like Bibi said, look in the mirror and tell yourself the truth. Think about what you're doing and how is it that you keep trying. Because if you were in my office, I would ask you. They're clearly not interested, so how are you more invested in their change than you are?
Mm.
And tell me about that.
Yeah.
All right. Good questions.
It's a struggle.
And that's it. Go ahead, somebody else? Okay.
Yes, I'd just like to comment. We treat other people the same way we treat ourselves. We don't realize it. So if we have a problem allowing other people to be themselves, we also have a problem allowing ourselves to be ourselves. So when we can accept, honor, appreciate, validate ourselves as we are, we will have those same ways of relating to other people.
Okay, she said until, you know what, you're going to have to repeat that. You know what? Because I didn't turn the recorder on, people.
Recording in progress.
So give me permission. Somebody is, because I needed it for this purpose too. But we're going to be recording going forward. So repeat that again so that I can share with them too.
Okay, so I was saying that we treat other people the same way we are treating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta have a blind spot there and don't realize it. But if we cannot accept others as they are,
Uh-huh.
it really means that we're not accepting ourselves as we are.
Did you guys hear that? She said you can't accept others because you're not accepting yourself. That's what she offered. Thank you. So that might be one thing you want to think about when you're looking in the mirror and trying to tell yourself the truth. Am I accepting myself? Okay. Number 3 is learn the skill of being invitational, authentically present and bidding, as in bidding someone to come. Again, we kind of suggested this early on when we talked about people thinking we're going to judge them, and therefore we can't forge a relationship with them. They don't want to be in a relationship with us because of the way we judge them, the way we treat them. And so how do you learn how to be invitational? When I was putting this together, I was thinking about the quote I've heard many times: "The eye is the window of the soul." Now there's scripture that suggests this idea. Shakespeare was given credit for perhaps saying it, but he helped to interpret. He helped to put the Bible together. So he could have read it there and came up with the phrase, "The eyes is the windows to the soul." I say that because many times when I'm sitting down with certain clients, they look at me like dead in my eye. I mean, like Prove it to me that you are accepting, that you are not judging me about the stuff I'm telling you, that you don't think I'm stupid or crazy or ignorant or whatever. They're looking me dead in my eye as if they're hoping that they can believe that I really mean what I'm saying. So when you think about how you look at people and when they look at you and what they see, can you see how important it is? I think children do this a lot too. Back to my grandson. He can know he's doing the wrong thing. He's looking at you while he's doing it. When people look in your eyes, they do see some kind of truth. And so you want to think about how in the world can I authentically really mean what I'm saying. And that's the other reason. Some children, I'm thinking about teenagers, they're quick to turn you off, stop listening to you, because they can tell you're doing it for the money. They can tell you're doing it so you can say you saved some young person's life because they was going down the road. They can tell your motives are not pure. And so you have to figure out how to be invitational. And all of this is connected. Being accepting, looking for the best, all of these things are connected. And that's why I chose these three, because there are a whole lot more. But I wanted to at least start with these things because they are the most important ways of being, ways of thinking, ways of looking at the world. And
So, can I just add this too?
yeah,
If we're gonna be authentically present in many, we need to leave social media in the person.
we need to leave social media where?
In the person, in the car.
In the purse or in the car, if we're going to be available to other people. Put your phone away, turn that other stuff off. Yeah, because people know when you are being there, you're being available. They do. Nobody's not asking me a question. Oh my goodness. 1 second. 1 second. Okay, I don't hear anything. I don't know what music you might be hearing, but what I do is, excuse me guys, I gotta, y'all hear anything? I do not.
I don't.
And it might be,
No, I don't hear anything.
okay, let me just, there's 1 second. Okay, well, let me ask the question and then I'll look at it. So the question that's connected to this is, it's not coming. I guess I would, the same thing. What's preventing you from being invitational? What gets in your way from being authentic, being real? Or let's say somebody you know. When you think somebody is not real or authentic, what are you thinking is their issue?
I think they're.
Go ahead. I will go ahead.
I just thought about a situation, personal situation, and I think it's because maybe over some time they've been hoarding something inside of them about how you're acting and who you think you are and that sort of thing like that. And then there comes a moment when they think they have the opportunity or the door is open to bring out some of those feelings that they've been sitting on for a while. And it may or may not even directly relate to what's going on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they feel that this is the way I can tell you that I don't like what you did or how you acted or whatever like that.
I see.
Yeah.
Anybody on anyone else can offer anything about what keeps people from being authentic and being available?
I think that everything that we do, how we interact,
I can say one of
1 second, someone in the room is, and I'll share. Go ahead.
is that everything is filtered through our own personal hurts and problems.
Oh,
Yes.
oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Oh,
I think that's it.
that's great. She, a woman in the room suggested that the reason why we are not authentic is because everything we
Everything we see, interact, all of that is filtered through our own problem.
Our
first.
stuff is in the way. How about that?
That's it.
That's what it meant.
That's
She
it.
said everything.
Yeah.
She said it
Yeah.
more eloquently than that, but it meant you got issues, and your issues get in the way of you being able to be available to somebody else. Like I'll just use a student again on the front row. She was whatever she was. What appeared to me was resistance came from someplace. And all I could do is say it came from someplace, and just because I just met her, so I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. But if I hadn't reacted to it and said some things about it, went home, told my husband and my kids, and told my friends, and this girl, which I did not do, and I may have shared it with somebody, but it wasn't an issue for me. But if I made it an issue, then that would have probably been because my need of some kind for everybody to like me or something like that. That would have been my stuff had I had a problem with it. But instead I just said, something is up, but I don't remember doing anything to it, so I'm gonna keep doing. Yes.
Somebody was on.
Okay, yes, and then you were gonna say, Ruth?
I was gonna say, and the other one is fear.
Fear?
Of being judged. Fear of being judged.
Yeah.
In a lot of instances.
Fear of being judged, she said. Yeah, nice. Okay, next slide. Okay, so testimonials, and you can just kind of see that I did a mini workshop on my How to Love book, and some of the people responded to it, and someone said it was pivotal in their self growth. She said, I can now apply the spiritual concepts to my real life scenarios. Then someone said this course was an answer to my prayer. Dr. Deb gave me the space and the tools to do more, that and more. Next slide. I was preparing to invite my warm faith partners to the How to Love experience, but something inside me had me apprehensive. And then I remembered your words of wisdom, and I changed my course, and I'm eternally grateful. So, what we have talked about and shared, the three things. The first one is believe that people have the resources, they have the ability to do the thing, whatever that thing is we're offering. The second one is to be accepting, to allow the people to be who they are, just like they are. And then the last one was to be invitational, and that is to be somebody that's approachable. That and you can't help but think about Jesus. He was always inviting and always asking, never forcing or any of that. Those are at least the three things that. And then I offered the bonus of being self-reflexive, meaning thinking about my stuff and how my stuff is getting in the way of me being who I could be in the world. Next. Yeah. So these are ways to grow our community. And again, if I'm talking primarily to people who are in leadership, because we listen to our leaders. And quite honestly, the leaders, their job is to help perfect the saints. Their job is to teach us so that we can be the things that we would be, or be the better people we could be. And of course, because their proclamation is that this is coming directly from God to me, from me to you, through me to you. And so that's one way to, go on. All right, so is there anything in particular I want to ask you guys that resonated with you, with the things we talked about today? What stands out, and this is everybody in the room, of course, and those of you that are online, what stands out for you the most?
For me, self-reflection.
Someone said self-reflection.
For me, this is radical acceptance.
Radical acceptance. Okay. Self-reflection, radical acceptance. What about in terms of ministry? So these are for you. Let's think about the church as a whole. What kinds of things you think we can use? Say if you guys, everybody in here was a board that all the churches had to answer to. Wouldn't that be hot? And they respected the board. What would you say to these leaders about what they can do differently to change what's about to happen by 2070.
I think we need a summit with this board, okay?
A summit, you're the
Yeah.
board though.
But
So,
okay.
so you're a ministry leader, so you would want to have a summit.
So I need to, especially the influential people
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
that supporting or just a member of
Mhm,
the church. We need to know who we are and where we're going.
Okay.
Okay.
So people need
Let's
to know
let's
it.
start let's define what got us to this point, what our thinking is at this point,
Uh-huh,
and are we willing to make changes
okay,
when and if necessary.
okay, yes, Pat?
I think that if I'm on this board,
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
You are the board.
You're the board. So
Yeah.
one of the board members said that we need to assess where we are and how we are going to move forward and change the way things are headed. Another board member says,
that as a member of the board, if I had any power at all, it would be to have the ministers, the leaders, to be more vulnerable. Because that I think that we have an image like we are perfect and we're
Yes.
better than everyone else,
Yes.
and that would really be dissolved
okay.
if we showed our vulnerability. If for
Yeah.
instance,
Let me tell
Yeah.
them what you just said. She said if the leadership of organization churches were more vulnerable because people thinking they would like for
Higher.
people to think
Yeah.
that they are above the problems that everyday people have.
Mhm.
And so if they were forthcoming about their struggle,
Mhm.
then that would be a beginning for you. And what else were you going to say?
what I was going to say to make that point is one of the most influential pastors in my life was a pastor who told us a story of how he came to know God.
Mhm.
And he came to know God because he tried to kill a woman. He went to prison for trying to kill the woman, and while he was in prison, the lady testified to him about the power of Christ, and
The woman he tried to kill?
the woman he tried
Okay,
to
let
kill.
me tell them this.
Wow.
She was talking about vulnerability, and she was saying that there was a pastor, who went to prison for trying to kill a woman, and the woman that he tried to kill witnessed to him
In prison.
in prison.
Wow.
So that's a vulnerability at its
Yeah.
Yeah.
kill. Okay, anyone else? You're the board, and after hearing what we talked about today, what would you suggest to the churches that be?
I would suggest, this is Ruth, I would suggest that we tend to, and this is my perception and my perspective, we tend to start at a certain age when we're giving, ministering to people. I think we need to take it all the way back to babies.
So start with young people, with babies, she said,
The very young.
to teach them. The very
Because
young.
part of, probably a lot of people that, because I deal with a lot of young people on a daily basis, they don't have a foundation. So we have to get back to building foundations with our children.
Okay. Building foundations with our children. Okay. Anybody else? You're part of the board, you wanna offer something based on what we talked about today that will help church leaders? Okay. No? All right, next slide. My invitation. I asked you that because I was thinking about a student in my class, a white girl, a white woman, who had a problem with Muslims. And I told you they had, this was my experience exercise where I had to share with you guys my problem with Christians, as a Christian. And she had a problem with Muslims. And one of the things that they had to do was get permission to do an interview with somebody that they struggle with, and that was her struggle. And so she found somebody, she interviewed the person, and after you did the project, you had to come like I just did and share with the class what you did, what happened, and what you were thinking before you did the interview. And now she's trained to be a therapist, and the whole point is that if you're going to be a therapist, you need to be able to serve anybody with any problem. And the problem was, if a Muslim came to your office, would you be able to be all these things we've been talking about today? So that's why she chose them, because she knew she struggled. When she gave her testimony, if you will, when she gave her experiential exercise to the class, she said that she went to a mosque service, 2 in addition, And she came to my room, my office one day, and I said, well, I called Emily, you went way up. You didn't have to do that. Why did you go to the Mosque White, sat with the women, covered her head, the whole bit? And she said, because, quote, I could not live with that hate in my heart, is what she said. I never forgot that. So the idea that if my job is to serve, my job is to be available, my job is to help somebody, anybody who shows up ethically, I'm bound to help them. I could not be okay with that. As a believer, I could not be okay with that. And that's why she went the extra mile. And so these ideas, there are a lot more, and some of you brought up some of them as we talked, but they will inform the work. It's the results are, like I said, change. I didn't make a lot of, there was one of the pictures in here had a board with a bunch of autographs on it. After every class, I think maybe after 3 years of teaching it, after every class, I would bring a wooden board and students would write on the board their experience in the class. And one of the pictures that I showed you guys had those, about 4 of those boards in it. And those were the results. It works. And so when I sat down to put the curriculum together and do all this, I was collecting data, and I got their permission to use their journal entries because I knew I was going to need it one day, because it was such a testimony of how, if you train somebody practically how to do something, how you can change it. And again, the most logical community was our community. And I know when you think about what you want to do, you think about how much it costs, how much time it's going to take. And as I knew I was going to share that with you, because I want to invite you, if you're open to, if you think there's something in what I've offered today that you think would be good for your organization or your church, that time is going to pass whether you do something or not. And we spend money on a lot of things that are, and I would say we invest money in a lot of things that are really good. So you have to think about how important is this work and changing our places in this world, in this country to begin with. I see my ministry as global. It's not just with this country. But how important is that work? And if you decide that there may be something that you're interested in doing based on what I've shared, then I would let you know that you wouldn't be anybody yourself. My whole thing is to teach you. I mean, I live for this. It's one of my gifts. I've been teaching since I was 12. Somebody. In Sunday school and BTU and old people, young people, everything, kids. And it's what I do. So I will be, if you promise yourself, you engage it, I'll be just as engaged. You will not outwork me in this, because I don't know about you, and I'm sure you're still listening, because this is what you do for a living. This is your call, just like it's my call. And so what I've created is a radical acceptance strategy, free session for anybody who's interested and know that you want to sit down and do a one-on-one with me, where we can talk about how we can tailor this to your organization. Because they're all not created equal. So there will be some things that you need more than other things. But based on what we have concluded about the struggle that Christians have in this climate, in the world we live in, it's some behavioral things that need to change if we're going to be the salt that we need to be in this present time. And so I invite you. What you're looking at, if you're looking at this online, is an invitation. You can go on Calendly. I have 3 days, different times during those days that you can sign up for one-on-one with me. Now, in Acts, one of the things they said about the Christians is that they turned the world upside down. And my belief is that we can turn the world upside down again, because we have the same love, the same spirit. It's in us, and we are capable. And see, I knew that about myself, but I was so busy being upset with the larger group of us that I didn't want to identify. But that's why I said that my name is Deborah, and I am a Christian, because I am. But now I got to teach myself how to say Christian more than I say believer, because I say believer more than I say Christian. And that's because that's just how far away from being identifying with us. I'm getting there. That I did. So if you are again interested, there's a link. I've also have my book. If you're interested in purchasing that, there's a link for that. Purchasing that, there's a link for that. And now I would just like to do a Q&A. If anybody, because a lot of people, certain of you were really into this and you had a lot to offer, and then some of you were pretty quiet. So if you thought of something, or have a question about anything that you would ask right now, I would be okay with that. And if you have to go, any of you, then that's understood too. I just want to make sure I don't leave this space without hearing from someone who really wants to share something. 1 second. Someone in the room, yes.
My question is this: if we're losing kids at about age 19, then that means we only have children who don't have choices. Once they reach adulthood and they have choices, it seems that's where they're being lost. How are you gonna help us not to lose adults?
Okay, so she said since the age that people walk away from the church when they grew up as Christians is 19, what are we gonna do about so we only have the children, she said, that we can affect change because they don't have a choice right now. So, and that's kind of what Ruth said about we need to focus on the young people. So, but then you also asked at the end about how do we get the 19-year-olds and above, how do we invigorate them, re-excite them, get them more enthused back into it. Think about this. Let's use me as an example too. If we had them to start with, then we have them lost. Because it was my personal relationship that kept it. I mean, it wasn't even a thought of walking away from the whole thing, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That was never an issue for me. So that's because it was in me. That's because I meant what I said when I was 11 when we was on the morning bench and I walked up and gave my heart to the Lord. You know, I meant that. So if they meant it, then we haven't lost them. Have not. They are just fine where they are. Now that's acceptance. They don't ever have to, and I'm gonna have to say this. If they never come back to church, they got what they need. If they never walk back in the door, they got what they need. And we have to trust that. Think about it. I don't know who has grown children who don't go to church, but you know they know.
Yeah, that is true.
You know they know. And so what they do, how they do what they do, that they're responsible for that.
Yeah.
And all you can do as a parent is say, I did my job.
Okay.
And now, do whatever you want to do. If that's what you want to do. Because again, that radical acceptance. I love you. This relationship is more important to me than you go to church on Sunday, even if it's just seeing me, Christian, Christmas, Easter, and
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. I'm okay with that, and so they need to be able to come to your house knowing that you've got a little problem with them being separated, but knowing that you love them no matter what they do, and I think that's been part of our problem as a whole is we let little minor stuff come between us and people that we are supposed to love, and that is no way to love. If you let something like that,
you love.
that's not their response. They cannot let you. They can't stop you from loving them.
Yeah,
But they want. But then you have to learn. And I ain't into the love language thing. But what you do have to do is respect where they are. That's how you love. You respect that they are doing what they do because that's what they want to do. And you know what you want. I'll make you your favorite. Blah blah blah. Come on over. You ain't gonna get on them about nothing. You just love them and you want them there. That is. You have a hard time with that, huh?
I do because it's real with me.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, then that goes back to accepting people's skills. They have resources. You have to believe in them to be able to allow them to respect whatever they do. You have to.
That's a word right there. Respect.
Yeah, you have to because you can't change anything anyway. But you have to know that. And I think that goes back to our community as a whole, the universal church. People are exposed to a whole lot of things. We cannot control that. So how do we then be loving parents who say, you know, son, well, if you want to smoke, then smoke. Just don't smoke in here, because I don't want it in my I don't want it in my furniture, in my drapes. But you know, that's all. Do your thing. So I think we need to learn how to do that. That comes down to it. And what you see on your screen again, persons, if you want to make a purchase or a book, or there's two things. There's a QR code, and then there's a link you can use to put in your browser. But yeah, it is hard. I hear you, both these parents in the room. I hear you. I do get it. But again, think about the definition. You hold the person in such high regard that you do whatever it takes and make the necessary sacrifice. It's a sacrifice.
It is.
It is a sacrifice. And eventually it becomes not a sacrifice because you have allowed it, you've accepted it, you let them go, and that's love too. That's love too. Any questions online, or let's see, anything? We missed anything?
And that may also be like the leaders that you were asking us as board, you know, and the shape a lot of the churches are in these days, is that it can apply either to your family or the church family. When you let things go for the sake of like getting along and not rocking the boat, sometimes the boat has to be rocked.
Yeah. This is rocking the boat situation here. Yeah. But like Jesus and the rich young ruler, you let him go. You let them go. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
You love them, but you can't make them. So it's in love that you let them go. Yeah.
And that's in either situation.
Yeah, and this is good to not drink. Let's say to yourself to death. That's in their good. That's good for them, but you can't make them.
Yeah.
So then what do?
Yeah.
You can't make them. So what do? You love them and you accept them, and believe that they will figure it out. Yes.
I like the fact that you said you love them, you accept them, but in your presence there are boundaries. You can smoke weed, you can't smoke it in my environment because I don't want weed.
Right.
But your weed is not going to stop me from loving it. I
Right.
love that.
That is good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that's something you have to practice. That's what this whole curriculum is about. It's about practicing. Because this is a 13-week long program, and the reason why it's 13-week long because it was 13-week long class that I taught it, and because it takes time for it to resonate with you that, oh man, thou art the man. I love the story with David and the prophet Nathan. I just love it. I just love that. It takes a while to recognize that it's you.
Yeah.
That you're part of the problem. It's not just the other person. It's a relationship.
Yes.
And there cannot not be a relationship. Anybody online? Because they're taking up all your time too. All the questions come inside. And I think what Pat said was that she liked the fact that you love them, but you let them be who they are.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? None online. Thank you, John Washington, Teresa, Vanessa, of course, Linda. I appreciate you, and of course, Audrey, my number one wing person. She didn't know that was her title, but yeah, that's she's a wing tech. So yeah, that's and that's it. And I again, some of you looked me up because you can't help but wonder what in the world, how in the world I got here and why I'm doing this, and I'm oh man, I hate those phrases we use, but I got to use. I'm sold out to this thing. This is what I'm doing for my life, and I'm excited about it. If you couldn't tell, I'm very excited about having to do this, and it makes so much sense. I think I kind of been avoiding it. I know I didn't realize it because I guess I was trying not to be stereotypical with all of this, but it is what I know is what I love. Both of them, therapy and the faith, both of them is what I know is what I love, and for them to come together, it makes so much sense because That's all that was left to do was put them together.
Amen.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys get off. Thank you for your time and your attention. And my email address, I think, is somewhere. I probably shared that. Dr. Deborah at howtolove.us is my email address. If you want to email me about anything. Also, the Calendly link, you can use that to schedule your radical acceptance strategy session, one-on-one discussion with me about how this might be useful for you. All right, people.